Um, as you know, everything we do at She Loves Tech is based on the power of community. Something that we've realized over the years is that women founders, in particular, all founders, I would say, but women founders in particular, really value having the support of a community, being part of a community. And I think it was Tech in Asia, I think earlier this year, which talked about this insider network of women and entrepreneurs in Southeast Asia's sort of fastest growing and largest economy. And I've known a lot of them for quite a while. I've invested in a lot of them as well. And I really wanted to sort of showcase their voices, to really share their stories, of what they've actually been through. Many of them have actually been entrepreneurs a lot longer than, for example, myself. And I think in particular, I chose somebody, her name is Gita, to really lead this roundtable, because of her sincerity and her true belief in helping, funding, and supporting women in the ecosystem. I first met Gita when she was fundraising for her startup, R'Fitness, and in my capacity as a general partner at Asia Ventures. I think by the time last year, in the middle of pandemic, I think she was pretty VC fatigued, and so I think that first conversation of ours, I'm not sure that went really very well, and I thought this girl really doesn't like me. And then fast forward, this year, I walked into a cafe, my favorite cafe in Singapore, called the Book Cafe, and I hear a voice, and I hear somebody talking, and Gita has a very distinctive voice, and I sort of realized, hey, Gita, is that you? And over the months, we became close friends, sharing a lot of our thoughts on the ecosystem, and I couldn't think of a better person to really sort of, unravel so what we call this insider network of Indonesian women entrepreneurs, who are all building sort of empires in their own right, both early stage and later stage. In fact, we've seen, I think earlier just this morning, Yada from Ajaib, which is one of the newly minted unicorns in this region. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over the stage to Gita and the other female entrepreneurs in this roundtable.
Hi, thank you so much, Virginia, for the intro. Really quickly, it's true. Virginia thought I hated her. I didn't. I was very VC fatigued because I was fundraising during a pandemic at the time and spoke to like 50 VCs or something. And overall, I've spoken to about almost 250 over the years. So really quickly, my name is Gita. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I'm based in Indonesia, but currently right now actually in the US, with my family. And I am a serial entrepreneur going into 12 years now. I've built 5 companies along the way. My background before that was finance and business, actually infrastructure even before that. And right now, I'm busy mainly angel investing, mentoring other female entrepreneurs, trying to grow this ecosystem of female entrepreneurs, especially in our country, and also launching an investment fund next year in order to support more and more women. I am here joined by 2 really great women. And could I have Kath introduce yourself and tell us what is it that you do now and what was your background before? And then we can get to Lorin.
Thank you so much, Gita. Happy to be here. Hi, everybody. My name is Catherine. So right now, I am currently an entrepreneur. I run my own coffee retail company based out of Jakarta, Indonesia. We currently have 3 outlets in Jakarta. And my background is actually in finance and marketing. So I've been in the banking industry and I've been in startups. And fun fact, I have worked with Gita before. And now we have a venture together. So yeah, that's my background.
Lorin?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I am currently in Singapore where, we've launched Melati drinks, which is Asia's first non-alcoholic spirit. So we're really targeting, the group of people who either want to drink less, want to have an option, or maybe they don't drink and they just want to have an equally sophisticated and healthy option for them, when they're socializing or alone as a treat. And part of that is my background was VC. So it's funny, Gita seems to be the thread amongst us where we met many years ago in Indonesia while I was a VC over there. And now, yeah, she's helped massively also in my current fundraiser. I'm also doing it in this lovely COVID time. So
Thank you so much for being here. So this is super interesting because I've been now a founder for 12 years, and the ecosystem in Southeast Asia is also fairly new. It's been only less than, I think, 15 years. Kath has been in the ecosystem also for the last several years, and she's built several businesses. And Lorin is a first-time founder, but she's been in VC too. So you're going to see the perspective from different vantage points. So there's a longer term, medium term, and early stage entrepreneurs here, which is going to be pretty cool. So we got a series of questions, probably some from from followers on Instagram, and also some from the ecosystem itself. So I'm going to answer it and also bring in my two ladies to answer, and just going to plug both of their products. Kisaku is a coffee product in Indonesia. I buy their ready-made coffee for home, and it's amazing. And I certifiably drink Melati drink almost every day. So this is a real thing. Like I always put it in a really nice glass, and it's my treat at the end of the day. So there you go. You should try both brands out. One of the reasons why this came about is because there's this whole Tech in Asia article saying that there's an insider network of female entrepreneurs in Indonesia. So I'm not really sure where the Tech in Asia got their info from. This is super interesting. But what are both of your thoughts? And I'll share mine after. What are both of your thoughts, and what communities are you in, and how has it been? Let's start with
Okay, start with me. All right, it's interesting because over the last, I think, 8 years of my career, right, in which there was banking, there was like being in a startup and like having to start my own business. I think the insider female entrepreneur network is not really an official network where you can just Google it and you sign up and like you find information very easily.
platform. Yeah.
So my thoughts on it is that I was very fortunate. I was very fortunate to have Gita as my previous boss, whom opened up a lot of these networking doors for me. And little did I know that coming in as an entrepreneur in this space, it was very, very challenging because not only people doubt your business's abilities, people doubt you as a female entrepreneur. So it's very interesting. I would say that the information is extremely fragmented, scattered. It's not easy to like identify an entrepreneurs network for females only, but I was very lucky to be able to met a lot of amazing female entrepreneurs on the way and to have them support what I do in my career. So yeah, my thoughts are along those lines.
Lorin, what has been like finding a community of female entrepreneurs for you?
well, when I saw initially the title of this group chat, to be honest, I was a bit confused. I was thinking, what community that I'm not part of? So I think that was a big question mark for me. It's funny because I am raising around now, and I think it's kind of hit that point where I'm starting to discover. Because I really wanted to have more, at least one female on my cap table, hopefully. And, it was that point of, okay, where are the female investors, or who can I connect with, who will believe in my product, who will understand my category? And I think that is something that I'm only now discovering. I didn't manage, not yet, to get plugged into some sort of, tight-knit community. So if that's on the table, please let me know. But otherwise, it's been more so of individual, meeting people. Back when I started in VC a few moons ago, there were very little women VCs in general in Southeast Asia. Now I think that number has increased more, which is amazing to see. And what's even better, I think, it's just off these personal connections that I had from, my career before, I've seen how when one of our own essentially want to strike out and start their own company, people are so massively supportive, especially other female VCs, where they're like, okay, like, who can we connect you with? How can we help you close this round? How can we get you the support that you need? And I think on that, it's more of a personal support system that you get, and that every person can build for themselves.
Yeah, I agree with both Kath and Melati, because with Lorin. Sorry, because I drink your stuff all like every day, and I keep seeing that name Melati. Anyway, my bad. I agree with Kath and Lorin in that when we think about the networks in Indonesia, they really are based on personal networks. They're not these formalized. There's not a website called Insiders Network to female entrepreneurs. It's mainly WhatsApp chat groups. But it's true that once you create that sisterhood, which takes a while to build and to start creating, it's true that I would say a lot of my growth have come from this sisterhood. I think the story that women backstab each other is sexy and very patriarchal, because it's not like men don't backstab each other. I think people backstab each other. But I am always in awe of how much women really do help other women out. So, for example, I'm an autistic female founder. And one of the things that I find very hard is reading people's intentions, because I don't necessarily read that very well. But for example, Kath, I can easily come up and ask anytime saying, hey, when that person said this, were they mad? And Kath would be really open and said, I think you pissed them off. And I said, oh no, what did I say? And she said, so it's not what you said, it's they assume this thing. And I went, oh, so she's kind of like my neurotypical human translator. Thank you so much, Kath. I really appreciate it. Well, okay, so let's just talk about what it's been like, our personal perspective, right? Because we can see the data and statistics all day long, but in the end, it's also just as important to hear about individual stories, because they are what makes up the data at the end of the day. And sometimes the individual stories also have this layer of complexity that makes people not see that part. And then if you don't see all the layers of complexity of the reality of being a female entrepreneur on the ground, sometimes it's easy to say, oh no, everything's better now, like everything's perfect, it's fully like equal. So what is the reality? How does it feel like building a business as a female entrepreneur right now? Let's start with Lorin, because you're the newest.
Yeah. Well, I've only ever been a female entrepreneur, so I couldn't give you a perspective of someone else's experience. But I think what I've always tried to do is just keep pushing. And it's tough, because I think I've never looked at it in a gendered way, but I think as time has gone on, it becomes clear when maybe you're the only one at a specific founder dinner, and you're the only woman, that the jokes and everything, it will get to you potentially, but I think more so it's about just having a mindset of resilience, and that is something that you can apply, I think, in any situation, no matter what it is. But I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't not get tiring sometimes. But that's why patience is something that we're all trying to cultivate as founders, I think. And yeah, that's just my experience.
Very cool. Kath, how's it been like? And because you've seen me from the start too.
Right.
Right.
I have a lot of opinions on this, right? Being a female, a female career woman. I'm not gonna even go to like being a female entrepreneur, right? Recently, I started getting into like a lot of blockchain, a lot of crypto, a lot of projects that has to do with NFT. And because my set of skills is in marketing, right? Like marketing is such a general skill where you can literally market any kind of products, right? Or any kind of services. I've got people who ask like if Kat was serious about doing a certain job because she is a content creator on the site. She's this. And in my head, I'm just thinking like, I am a marketing person who needs to put information out there. And I sometimes question whether it is a gender specific question where it only gets targeted to females, right? Because when you see men being content creator, being a YouTuber, and doing all of this other stuff, nobody questions whether they are really in it seriously or whether they are serious about what they're doing. So it gets extremely tiring. And I think just to add on what Lorin has said, like it never really occurred to me until I started becoming a full-time entrepreneur, right? A full-time career woman. Because my background when I was studying in high school, I came from an all-girls school, right? Literally, there were no men in the room to compete with. We were extremely privileged to be able to voice out our opinions, extremely privileged to pursue many activities, hobbies that wasn't gender specific. So we never really see gender as a barrier.
Right.
We're coming on to like the real life, whereby people question how serious you are about what you do because you're a woman and you might get married, you might have children, as if that is something that fundamentally is broken in you. And I thought that was like really sad. And it struck me, and perhaps my experience is very different with many others, but my experience with like men questioning whether I'm serious in my career has been done so many different times that I have given up on actually rationalizing or like debating whether I'm seriously doing my job properly. So I just show the work, right? And whenever I show the work, people go like, ah, yeah, seems like, she took it quite seriously. So that's my personal opinion. I know it's pretty strong, but gotta put it out there.
Okay, just a disclaimer. Kath and I and two of our other friends who are also entrepreneurs built a podcast called Taboo Tuesday that you can find on Spotify, where we literally talk about taboo topics, including this exact issue. It's mainly in Bahasa Indonesia, but there are some English here and there. And this is a big thing because you're so right with this whole "are you serious" point. I've been in this for going into 12 years now. And I remember how my companies are always considered a hobby or a passion project, or it's cute, or, oh, that's nice, or, oh, cool. Like, are you serious about it? Or it's never taken to the level of seriousness or degree like a male entrepreneur, and they'll say, oh no, it's not because of that. And I'm like, then why is it? I'm also from Wharton. I'm also like educated. I am also, I have a investment banking background. So what is it? What about the business that made you think this is just cute, that this is just a hobby, that this is just a passion that I'm gonna, get bored of next year? What about it actually? And then the worst was definitely when I was getting married and I was fundraising, because I've definitely gotten the whole, oh, but you're getting married. And I'm like, and that has what? Like, what does, oh, no, it's not that. It's just, I asked this to like all founders. I'm like, really? Should I ask your other male founders if you really ask them that? Like, if they're serious with their company after they get married? Are you sure it's not just me? And then the kicker was definitely one VC said like this, oh, we once invested into this female-led company, but then she had a really tough pregnancy through no fault of her own. So then we just lost a lot of money because then the company just kind of fell apart. So, and I went, well, I totally understand how you feel, because I once invested into a male-led company and he ran away with all the funding money. And that whole thing went bankrupt. So yeah, I know. I don't know, And they said, that's not what we meant. I'm like, what do you mean then? And, yeah, like just hearing that all the time. And then realizing that so many people are still very resistant with feeling that maybe, although all the stats say so, that maybe things are not as super egalitarian as people think, right? So on that note, like, how has it been really, like, fundraising? Well, Lauren's fairly new in this, so I don't know if there's, yeah, because she's fairly new. But like, Kath, you've gone through it. I've gone through it.
Mhm.
How has it been like in the VC community itself? Like, have you experienced things that make you go, that was weird? Did they just ask me that because it's gender? What do you think, Kath?
Great question, Gita. I think we should look at the whole ecosystem, as there are people who are very resistant to investing in women, and a lot of times the pushback is always, you're not aggressive enough. I don't think your business can scale large enough, and this comes often with a lot of female focused products, right? Female focused products such as skincare for women, makeup for women, menstrual care products for women. And most often people come in and they say, I don't think there's any product to market fit, right? They don't think the business is aggressive enough, or they don't think there is just much innovation.
Yeah.
One thing that actually a lot of people ask, especially because I run a direct to consumer coffee retail company, people are always asking about, oh, but what's the tech involved in it, right?
Yeah.
So you get questions that makes you think, is this really like gender bias? Like, do I really not have a product market fit? Do I really not know what is good for, say, the women body? So those questions definitely do come up. But on the other hand, in the last few years, I've seen like an amazing group of like network of women who has come forward and opened up a lot of doors for female entrepreneurs like myself, because simply they they don't question how aggressive you can be, right? Or how whether you have a product market fit, because they themselves as women, they understand what other women want. So I think in recent years the conversation has opened up a lot to like investing in women, and
Okay.
a lot of companies have also made it a mandate to like invest in more women, to
Sure.
really support women in like doing what they want to do. So I think there's really like a lot of different like opinions about it, but I do think in the recent years we've done quite a lot, and definitely there's still a lot to be done, and I do have an optimistic view towards the future.
That's awesome. I know what you mean, because I have been fundraising now for a long time, for more than a decade, and I have met hundreds of VCs around the world. And one thing that people should understand about discrimination or even implicit bias, which is a bias that you have internally that you don't even know you have. And it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means that all of us are conditioned by society to an extent. Like, we're not these automatons that live outside of independent of any influence ever, right? That's not a thing, right? So there's there seems to be a lot of lack of awareness, especially back then, including now to an extent, right? That people have implicit bias. So it's not that female founders, let's say me, it's not that people didn't take me seriously because they say, well, Gita, I don't think your product is going to scale because you're a woman. No one did that to me. No one said like, oh, Gita, you're not a good founder because you're female. Like, that's not a thing. But for example, they will be ultra critical of things that they just weren't that critical with, like other male founders. And I know, because I started taking very meticulous notes of all my meetings since then, right? Because I was actually curious, like, is it just me? Because women, I think we've also been conditioned, so many of us, to really question ourselves. That's why there's like imposter syndrome with like ambitious women. Like, do I deserve this? Whereas I always question, do men ask if they deserve something once they get it, or they go, yes? Like, should I celebrate more then? Because what I found was I would get questions where the weaknesses are amplified and the strengths are barely talked about. So it's almost like, as one of my friends who's a female investor said, it's almost like men are judged by their potential and women are judged by their performance. So they want to see what I've actually done rather than really think about what I can do. Whereas I see a lot of male founders getting judgment on what they can do because, do you know that they used to do this? And then I'm like, why don't you extend that same level of thinking to me? Why don't you assume that I can do that? Because do you know that I've done this in the past? That and these are things I've talked about. But it is something that also I found, especially during the pandemic, which is when funding for women just dropped. The level of scrutiny that I got was so harsh. Yet I saw so many other male founders where I'm like, how come you weren't judged as harsh? But the thing is, because venture capital is very early stage investing where data is at a premium, technically anyone can argue that it wasn't discriminatory. It's very like a mind head at one point. So on that note, it's been really helpful meeting female investors, such as Virginia for me, because she was a breath of fresh air, although, I was totally burnt out by the time I met her. But by the time we hung out, it was a breath of fresh air. Lorin, what has been your experience with meeting female investors? And also, because you've been in the ecosystem since your days in another VC, how has it been seeing female investors since then and now?
I think when I was in VC, also, what now, 5 years ago or so, till now, basically, there were a lot more associates, analysts, rather than managing partners. Now, we've seen a few more of those, which has been great to see. To be honest, I personally somehow have not pitched to that many female funds, which is a shame. But it's also, I think, when you see a lot of these, every VC has a mandate of kind of, we don't invest in competing brands. Well, most VCs, we don't invest in competing so we won't, we'll support the winner. And with this, once maybe a female VC has already invested in one, winning company that they see in that category, who maybe has also been run by a female founder, then it's very hard for them to be able to support another female founder in a similar space. And this, is kind of, I think, what I faced a couple times, which is a bit tough because the number of female-friendly funds, I suppose, in the whole world is just a bit lower than the ones that are generic. And based on that, also, I understand what you said earlier about, entitlement to success and how sometimes, male founders just have a bit more entitlement. I myself have, been pitched to hundreds of times by male, founders, and they themselves do such a fantastic job at selling themselves that I think that is obviously a skill that everyone, should know as a founder. There's a line where that straddles, reality and maybe something that's less tangible. Definitely, I do find that I think level of confidence differs. And I see that in myself too. I want to be based fully on performance. I want to show, the hard numbers. I want to be very much based in facts because I think facts are something that no one can dispute, and when you sell a dream, there's a lot more room for questioning that dream. And another fact is, a lot of people form opinions based on history, right? And so if we see historically, there haven't just been, that many female founders. Additionally, I'm quite young, so that also adds in another layer of questioning. So it's age, it's background, it's all these things that add to something that hasn't really been seen that much before. It's not showcased in the movies, it's not indoctrinated into our way of thinking as the typical picture of success. And I think that's where the cognitive dissonance kind of comes into play for some people.
I completely agree with that. I think people really underestimate representation and why it really truly matters. It truly matters if you have daughters that they see themselves as heroes. That's a real thing. Just going off on Lauren's thought, the first time I watched Hamilton, which is a Broadway show with fully people of color, it really broke me in a very good way, as in it really touched my heart, simply because I did not know that my parents were immigrants in the U.S. I did not know immigrants and children of immigrants can ever be on a Broadway stage. That matters. And when we don't have enough women on covers of magazines, having interviews, speaking up, then yes, it can make you think that, hey, yeah, to be a really successful founder, you have to be a guy wearing a hoodie. So this really matters. Just having people from all sorts of different backgrounds and all sorts of different ways of thinking also matters. And when we think about this, when we think about societal expectations, and when we think about how the community perceives working women, how has been your experience, Kath, with, I don't know, parental, your friends, she's already laughing, societal expectations of you as a professional, as an entrepreneur, as a female founder?
Great question. I love this question. So when I was working in a bank, right, I used to work for an international bank based in Indonesia, and the narrative that was played constantly, and this is perhaps Gita would have heard about this, is that successful women are either divorced, single, old, and not married, and which is a really, really, really sad narrative that people play all the time in a lot of corporate careers, right? And society's expectations of a successful woman who has successfully built her career is that she's too smart to date anyone, she's too smart to get married to anyone, she won't have time to take care of her kids, right? She neglects her kids.
Yep.
So there's a lot, like there's literally a lot that sits on your burden, just trying to make a good use of your time and to actually do purposeful things with your life, right? And it's quite sad because society's expectations, even from my parents themselves, I had to really talk to them about the things that I want for my life, which is at 30 years old in Indonesia culture, I'm supposed to get married. I'm supposed to have children.
Right.
Biologically, I should also have children, right? And I had to sit my parents down and be like, you know what? Right now, I think my focus in my life is not really in, having a family, starting a family, getting married, having children. I want to go out and do things that makes me have purpose, which is to help more people, right? To build brands, to have foster a community whereby people can learn. And that's tough, right? And that's internally, that's in my family. Imagine having to go out and telling everybody about all of these things. So honestly, it's been hard. It's very challenging to be a woman who wants to have a career, and to obviously be a woman who has a amazing, purposeful, and content career. So I mean, it took a long time before I separated myself from the normal narratives that goes on in the corporate life that I used to have. And I'm super duper thankful for people like Gita, for my mentors who are women, who have proven to me that that narrative is so biased.
Yep, that narrative is so all over the place in Indonesia, because I once wrote a piece on Instagram, which later became a podcast, about how I out-earned my husband. And man, the hater rate came strong. A lot of people said, like, poor husband, oh, that's so bad, you shouldn't out earn a guy, like they'll cheat on you, like you make them feel bad. Stuff like that. And that's actually a fairly common notion. How could you as a woman dare take up space, basically? But I mean, that's how I am, though. And so in terms of family, I would say I've been very blessed with very, very liberal, just very open-minded parents. By the way, my mom is the cool one in the family because she's a gender rights activist for the last 47 years. Yeah, it's just she's in like rehabilitation for knee surgery right now, so she can't join us. I wish she can because she's amazing. But I have someone like her who reminds me every time that a woman should realize herself to the fullest, in so many ways. So you don't have to be one thing. You don't have to be a, like be a wife or be a mother or be a working woman or anything. You get to decide that. So she's been very helpful, but societal expectations have been tough, especially in my generation. I'm 40, so I think people my age by now, definitely their kids are, growing up and everything. And it's the number one question I get all the time, which is, oh, when are you going to have kids and finally be complete? And people don't realize that I'm actually complete. So, Lorin, how has it been like? Are you getting a lot of family support? How have your friends been helping you on your journey? How is society at large?
This is a bit tough for me to answer. I'm gonna have a think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But are you getting friends who are supportive? Are you finding it easy to meet like friends who do the same things?
I think I'm searching for that now. I think in every stage of your life, you search for, people who understand you in that, phase of life. That's definitely the mode I'm in, searching. So, ladies, hit me up. But
Yes.
I think larger than that, with a cultural background, we almost straddle, or at least I do. I feel like I straddle the line of, traditional expectations and, the reality of what I need to feel fulfilled as an individual, in my career, and the personal goals that I want to set for myself. I want Melati drinks to be sold in every restaurant and top bar, and in every, to every hostess. I wanted to see it in everyone's homes, like throughout the world, where they can appreciate the product. And I think that's something where, I have ambition for that. And at the same time, I still do feel like there's an expectation to still be, that poised, subservient woman who is respectful, who's seen as, well-mannered and elegant. And I think, and I don't think that these things necessarily are at odds with each other. I just think that there's a lot more expectation, and I think undervalued work, that fall into kind of, the expectation for women. So if I were to be a mother, for example, I'd still, be the one to be the best mother, and, take care of my children, take care of my partner, like make sure that the house is in order, make sure, that the food is cooked, make sure that everyone's well fed and that everyone gets raised properly, everyone has the right manners. But on top of that, also, run a company and stuff. And I think, the home element of that definitely is a bit less valued in the world.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't translate into dollars and cents.
Yep.
To be honest, that's the way it is. But at the same time, it's still the expectation for you to do everything. No one ever looks at someone and says, oh, their father didn't raise them properly. Still to this day.
Oh my gosh, so true. Yeah. Yep. Okay, that was A really good point. Okay, so we're down to just the last several questions, and there will be more events on She Loves Sex, so everyone should go check it out. Check out their schedule. So, for our last several questions, what do you think is your biggest challenge right now in terms of building the business? And what what do you think is also your biggest opportunity? Let's start with Kat.
Biggest challenge in starting, or not starting, I would say, in like maintaining my business. I think the biggest challenge is the resources, right? Whether it's in terms of like capital, whether it's in mentoring, right? I
Yeah.
think those are definitely the biggest challenges that we have in the world. And a lot of times, what I realize is that men and women are not equipped with the same set of skills, right? When I look at a lot of women, like one example is I run a coffee shop in which we try to have more than 45% of women
Mm.
baristas in the company. And it's been
Oh,
very, very difficult because there's so much bias and there's so
ah,
much lack of knowledge that a women barista has, right? The industry itself is already dominated by men, right?
right.
Today, if I were to receive 10 CVs, I probably only get one women CV, right? And when I
Right.
get with one particular resume, that women will never be as good as nine other men who submitted their resume. So
Yeah.
that itself is a very, very big challenge, is the resources to like equip them with skill sets, training, money, time. Those
Yeah.
will still remain to be a big challenge. But one of the things that I do see as an opportunity in this space, whether it's making your workplace a more inclusive environment, is that every single person or every single business has a part to play, and there definitely is a way that you can make your business, your workplace a lot more inclusive. I
Yeah.
run a very small size business in Jakarta, right? And we have made sure that we commit to like empowering more women by equipping them with skill sets, equipping them with knowledge. And this is down to like the most entry level jobs that we have. All right. And that itself is a change that we do even at a small scale. And I think a lot of times big corporates will say, oh no, it's too much, it's too expensive, it's too blah blah blah. But if we can do it as a small business, I'm sure companies with more resources can do it too. So that remains to be an extremely big opportunity. And I've been in talks with like other industry players as well, like other cafes, other coffee retail companies, to really help them to be able to make their workplace more inclusive. So having more women is definitely a big opportunity in this space. And I think hopefully with small scale grassroots community efforts, we can
Hmm.
really make this a norm in future workplaces.
All right. Cool. I really like the thought about the grassroots community because really community is where we start. Lorin, what about you? Biggest challenge and also your biggest opportunity right now?
Well, biggest challenge right now, I'm raising, so I guess it's people, believing in my story and taking my word more seriously is one element of it. Just as an addition to any female founders who may be raising or anything, I think that this is a bit separate, but a word of caution about, you know, if in the case that things are not as safe or as regulated for women as there are for men, I think that we have to take things into our own hands essentially to protect ourselves. And like, I just want to have that extra word of caution. There's always that thing of women walking around with like keys between their knuckles and everything, but I think it's very real here. In Asia it may be a bit safer from regular things, but I think that you still have to protect yourself a lot. Um, always make sure to, don't be alone with someone necessarily, just take that extra step of caution, I think is good. So that was a side note. And for in terms of opportunity, I think the biggest opportunity is the growth. And at the end of the day, everyone loves a winner. And, at that point, no one questions you once you're successful. No one questions you when you're, Whitney Heard IPOing Bumble with your baby in your arm. No one's going to question you at that point. So I think that there's no real limit to the opportunities, but rather it's more about overcoming what we have now just day by day.
That's amazing. Okay. One last question, and this is going to be fairly quick, but if you can just say one sentence to any woman starting her business today, what would it be? Let's start with Kat.
Have
Just
grit.
okay.
Words. Have grit.
Yours, have grit. Okay. Lorin?
Find people who believe in you.
Oh, okay. Agree with both of them. And for me is to always believe that you are enough just the way you are.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, so that's it for now. So glad to have both of you here. Thank you so much for being here. Kat, thank you for always being with me throughout my journey. Thank you so much, Lorin, for joining. Really love Melati. Thank you for introducing me to it.